Hey everyone, and thank you for swinging by our little corner of YouTube. In this video I'll be showing you all how I'm going to tackle our kitchenette unit in our self-build camper van. Now there's many wonderful videos out there on YouTube showing you how to do this, and I certainly won't be trying to reinvent the wheel, but if you're a newbie like us and you're at a similar stage of your own camper van build and you're looking for inspiration, if you stick it out to the end, I'm hoping you'll be able to pick up something just a little bit different from this video. First things first, let me just show you all what it is that we have in mind. So we're going to have two kitchenette units, one down one wall and one down the other. And the first unit is going to house our oven. Please ignore the orange pipe, that will be being removed. The battery won't be sat down there. In actual fact, it won't be that battery, it'll be a totally different one. That'll be housed underneath the bed. And for the other unit, that's going to house our sink and also our porta potty as well. Now the plan regarding the porta potty is it will slide forwards, and when you sit on it you'll sit with your back to the side loading door. And the reason that I've done it that way is when it comes to emptying it, it'll just be a simple case of sliding it out, opening the side loading door and just lifting it out without any bother. It's probably worth me mentioning for anybody new to the channel that our van is a medium wheelbase Citroen Relay. And what that means is it's 5.4 metres long, so it's not the biggest thing in the world. And we've got a Springer Spaniel called Merlin, and with every aspect of the build so far, and indeed going forward, his requirements have always been at the forefront of our mind. So when it came to the layout for the kitchen, we wanted to make sure that the units were nice and shallow, because that would mean that there'd be more available floor space for the dog. And I think once we've built them, hopefully we will have achieved that. After a bit of to and throwing, we opted to make our units 500mm deep. With our decision made, we then took some measurements and transferred them to some 34x34mm timber. Now arguably, we could have used thinner material, but just like with the bed, I wanted to make absolutely certain that these units were nice and robust. If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I'm a big fan of using a pocket hole jig. And to make sure that we got a nice solid frame, everything was glued and screwed. Finally, after a few hours, I had myself two solid frames. That's the carcasses all built now, and I have to say it's a little bit surreal for myself to see them in situ in the van, because one, it's finally starting to look like a camper van now, and two, I'm starting to get a real sense of the space that we're going to have available to us once it's all finished. You'll have to forgive the pocket holes that you can see on the front face of both units. Now of course I could have had them on the inside and you would never have seen them, hung the doors and just called it done. However, I want the bottom units to be consistent with the top, and to achieve that I'm going to be cladding them. So of course once we've got cladding on the front face of them and on the sides, you'll never see the pocket holes, you'll never know they're there. Before I get to the cladding, there's a few things that I need to take care of. The first being, I need to take a notch out of the window frame so that the carcass will fit nice and flush against the wall. And then once that's done, I can screw it to the wall, screw it to the bed, screw it to the floor. So it'll be nice and secure, and of course I'll do that for both sides. And then the other thing that I need to do is I need to drill a hole in the bottom of the van to fit a dropout vent for the gas. My cheap and cheerful multi-tool was the perfect bit of kit to trim the window frame. After much measuring and double checking underneath the van to make sure that I was clear of everything, I drilled a pilot hole. And after a final round of checking to make sure I was absolutely happy with the position, I cut out a hole for the gas dropout vent using a hole saw. To discourage rust, I touched up the bare edge of the metal using red oxide primer. Happy with my hole, I set about screwing the kitchen frames into place. To make a nice corner edge, out came the shower trim again, which I used to make the top cupboards. I used a scribe to mark the edge and then went about cutting them to length. It was then just a case of drilling some pilot holes and screwing them to the frames. Using the top cupboards as a guide, I opted to use 9mm ply to skin the kitchen frames. The reason for this being I thought that 9mm would be more than sufficient to make our cupboard doors. I marked out the position of the doors and then cut them out using a jigsaw before giving them a final tickle with some sandpaper just to smooth out any rough edges. Any fixing points were then marked out, pre-drilled and countersunk, so once they were screwed in place I could then fill them to hide the screws. Just as with the top cupboards, I decided to test fit the handles and the hinges, just to make sure that everything was perfectly aligned before painting. Because I knew that our kitchen units were 500mm in depth, it was a simple case of just picking up some 500mm runners from Amazon to attach to our drawers. To ensure that our toilet unit didn't scuff the floor when it was being slid in and out, we opted to stick some heavy duty felt pads to the bottom. For our kitchen worktops, we wanted something that was cheap and cheerful and relatively light, so we opted to use 18mm ply. And once it was all cut to shape and size, we then sized the worktops using some wallpaper paste, and once it was fully absorbed, we then pasted down railway posters because 1, we thought it'd be something just a little bit different, and 2, we thought it'd bring a pop of colour to the van. Once it was all dried, we then trimmed the edges and then sealed it using some gloss varnish. It was then just a simple case of screwing them in place. Latches were added to the cupboard doors to keep them closed. And rubber trim was added to the gas locker door to help seal it. It's probably worth mentioning that the gas locker's got a 50mm lip on the front and it's fully sealed using sealant, and the gas bottle itself, it's held in place using a strap. Conscious of weight in the van, vinyl tiles were used on the splashback around the sink. And those are our kitchen units all finished. Though it is worth mentioning, I am waiting for a couple of cupboard bolts to arrive from our friends at Amazon so that I can securely lock the gas locker. But other than that, I would say we're finished now and we're ready to move on to the next stage of the build. Considering the cheap materials that we used, I think both of our kitchen units have turned out really well. And of course, being a self-build, that's enabled us to put our own personal stamp over both of them and make them unique to us. I've certainly not seen another self-build out there that's got kitchen units like ours. I particularly like our use of shower trim to make a nice rounded corner profile on both units, so if you do go bumping yourself, at least it's against the softer edge rather than a sharp edge that you see on most kitchen units. The second thing I like about our kitchen units are the worktops. I don't think I've seen another van build out there that's pasted posters to the top of the worktop, in our case railway posters, and then sealed it with gloss just to give it a pop of colour. So we have ourselves two well made units. They're absolutely solid, well secured to the van so they won't be going anywhere, and most importantly they're fully functional for our own personal needs. So that's another job checked off the list of things that we need to do in our self build. And to be honest with you, I think we're getting towards the end of it now really. There's not a great deal left to do. So I think the next video is going to be just a case of tidying up any loose ends here and there, just to get all the aesthetics finished in the van. So for instance, one thing that I do need to do is create a step from the cab into the rear of the van, because that's going to be housing our diesel heater. And another thing that I need to do is create a surround around our fridge. And as I mentioned before, there's a few odds and sods that need tidying up here and there. And then once that's complete, I think we can move on to the wiring and the plumbing and so on and so forth. But anyway, if you want to watch that video, I'm sure by now you know what you need to do. And I think I'll leave the video there. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time guys, take it easy, stay safe, and fingers crossed I'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, then please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more and you haven't done so already, then please consider subscribing. And don't forget to hit that notification bell down below so you know exactly when we put up a new video. And until next time guys, take it easy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.